Hello everyone, my name is Loco and welcome to the grand finals of the Maestros of the game. A $20,000 StarCraft 2 tournament that was recently held in Paris. Now it's time for a best of 7 series. We're in the top left hand corner in game number 1. Playing with the red Zerg drones, we have the world champion of StarCraft 2, the #1 Zerg on the planet. And he goes by the name of Serral. His opponent, last year's world champion of StarCraft. He's of course the hometown hero because he is from France. Playing for Team Liquid, we're looking inside of the main base of Clem. The very best Terran on the planet. These two are absolute titans of the game. Now, I haven't seen this series yet, but I've heard that it is absolutely incredible and that it is some of the very best StarCraft 2 that we have ever seen. Now, these two, of course, have a very long history. They've played against each other many times. So, like I mentioned, Clem won the EWC, the Esports World Cup, last year. He played against Serral in the finals and ended up winning 5-0. Serral seemed to have some sort of, I don't know, I guess a mental block or something along those lines. He did not have a good day, and he ended up losing in the grand finals. Obviously, still doing quite well for himself, but 5-0 is unheard of. Now, since then, they did not play in the EWC 2025. I mean, both of them participated, but they did not play against each other. Serral, though, ended up winning the EWC this time around, and he, of course, stole the title of a world champion here from Clem. Now, since then, they've played against each other as well in 2 other grand finals. They play against each other all the time. Once they played in an online tournament, the Pigsty 5.0, I think that was back in March. Serral ended up winning that one 5-4. And more recently, they faced off against each other in Bulgaria for the BGE. And in that particular best of 7 grand finals, it was Clem who came out ahead 4-3. Now, there's one thing that we've noticed, at the very least if we don't consider last year's EWC grand finals, and that is that every single time that these two have played against each other since, the matches are absurdly close. So I am super excited for this one. It's a best of 7 series to start. Now, because Serral in this particular tournament comes from the lower bracket, it's a double elimination tournament. The French tournament organizers really enjoy this type of format, but it's a double elimination tournament. Because of that, since Serral has already used up his first quote-unquote life in the event, if Serral wins this best of 7, they play 1 additional best of 3 to decide the victor. If Clem ends up winning this first best of 7, he is the winner of the tournament. And that is again because Clem has been undefeated so far in this particular event. Now, so far, Command Center right over here on the low ground, no surprise. Triple Command Center opener. I'm assuming a starport will be coming up here in just a moment. There it is. Factory is going to start pumping out Hellions 2 at a time. And we have, of course, that Command Center added on into the mix. Overlord wants to have a look around, but it can't really find too much. Nice catch right over here on the Reaper. But of course, these two have played in these type of early games so many times that it's pretty much second nature. And if we look at the units lost, I mean, getting 1 drone is pretty much the best case scenario right here for Clem. Now, it is important to note that this particular series is played in the, I guess we can now call it the old StarCraft 2 balance patch. In case you missed the news, Blizzard has already published the brand new patch. I made a video when the PTR first went live. And since then, they've added a whole lot of changes to the PTR. And then a few days ago, they just simply pushed it live to the current version of the game. So that means that all future tournaments, all current tournaments, are going to be played on a brand new patch. This one is the one without all of the Microbial Shroud changes, for example. I really think Microbial Shroud, which is crazy because I think up until this point, it's been the worst ability in all of StarCraft 2 ever. I think Microbial Shroud is seriously going to impact Zerg versus Terran, especially at this level, because Marine Marauder really just doesn't deal any damage when Microbial Shroud is down. It is pretty crazy. So if you are interested, I will, of course, be casting games from the brand new patch very soon as well, so make sure you subscribe so you get notified as soon as those videos go live as well. But this one is still played on the old balance patch, the one that we have been seeing for all of 2025 so far, and the one that, well, is very well explored at this point. And I think, all things considered, Zerg versus Terran is very balanced. So even though the new patch is going to introduce a lot of changes, and it will certainly make the balance a little bit messy for some time, I think across the board, it has been extremely close. And when you see these two play against each other, it really it shows how tight the games tend to be. Now we have a little Zergling that did run in, and Serral will just now have scouted, that there is indeed a bio transition. Liberator in the meantime in the main base is gonna get shut down. Hellions get pushed back as well at the front. Clem trying to use some of that multitasking, some of that speed to his advantage. But so far, he is not really getting a whole lot of value there. Getting 2 drones for a Liberator. Also losing a Hellion there is certainly not worth his time. Especially when you can, well, send that Liberator back home, maybe repair it back up and get a bit more value. Clem usually very well known for that sort of thing, but he is mixing it up a little bit already, right? Not opting to go for that Banshee shenanigans, which we see most of the time. Not opting to go for any of that Cyclone shenanigans either, which, by the way, they have now fixed with the new patch. So maybe in this series, we're still going to be seeing some of that Battle mech, some of that Cyclone mech. But in this particular, in this particular game, it's going to be bio for now. But with the new balance patch, it's no longer going to be as powerful as it has been for some time. But Clem, not really a mech player anyways. But let's see, maybe the Hellions right now around the site can achieve something. The problem here is if you end up losing those Hellions, there is going to be a counterattack imminent immediately. And if there's a counterattack immediately imminent, then you can't really send out these medevac drops. So Clem needs to be cautious with the way that he maneuvers around his army. He needs to keep these Hellions alive if he wants to go for pressure. Look at this. There's nothing to defend. You run into some risks here as a Terran player, especially if you end up losing some of those early game troops for free. Marines going in around the site. Serral, though, already positioning his queens perfectly. Gets a transfusion down on one of them. 2 of them. 3 of them. Yeah. And with this many queens, life is going to be a-okay. He actually starts up a hive right now together with 3 infestors. So these infestors are relatively early. It's something that Serral has been experimenting with quite a bit as of late. Normally, though, he makes 2. So I'm curious to see if this is just a misplay. I mean, is that possible? Probably not. Maybe he's seen something where he believes he needs an additional fungal, but either way, he is going to be able to use this quite nicely to slow down this particular attack. Because at this point, there's no banelings or anything along those lines. Here go the Marines. We are going to need to see a fungal, and the fungal is glorious. It deals a bit of damage. He's trying to get the Widow Mines to deal friendly fire too, using those almost stationary targets. In the meantime, there is a Zergling counterattack, but Clem manages to push that one back. I think we actually need to be retreating with those Marines, but he wants to get some creep tumors as well. Nice target firing right there by Clem. Getting a little bit more value just like that. 4th Command Center has already come up. We have a 2nd factory down at the front. We'll probably see barracks 6, 7, and 8 here in just a moment. Generally, we build all of them in one go. Building them one at a time is a little bit odd. Another fungal. That one doesn't hit too much. Clem really trying to put on the pressure, though, and make it difficult for this Zerg to really grab a foothold here. He got rid of the creep, obviously, and he wants to use that to his advantage right now. And since the infestors are out of energy, the queens obviously are not that big of a damage dealer. Life is viable here. More infestors coming up. Serral just entirely skipping out on the banelings here. Very strange unit composition. We're already up to 4 infestors. I think he must have lost 1 or 2 as well. Another fungal here. What a weird comp here from Serral. Now with the new patch, banelings are getting a 5 HP buff. It doesn't sound too significant, but it really would make it significantly better in these type of spots. Fungal over here would be lovely. He is targeting the hatchery, though. No queen energy available. There is, and the transfusion will save it. Serral, though, also in the meantime sending in a very large Zergling counterattack. 4th Command Center in the meantime has been set up. And thus far, this has been a very lovely back and forth. An odd unit composition here from Serral, but one that may very well work if he can get Ultralisks out. And at this point, there are no Ultras yet. He is getting the Cavern going, but it's still going to be a while. Now, this is a lovely grab, though, on that many Marines. Somehow, some way, Jimmy managed to survive that fight. Adrenal Glands is done for these Zerglings, so they will have about a 40% attack speed improvement. Another Liberator here, mostly just for zoning. A bunch of Widow Mines set up as well. Creep on the left side of the map is looking great. But across the board, Serral is not achieving too much on the other side of the map. And Clem keeps on carving little advantages for himself as he's moving forward. It is not cheap for this Terran player at all. But he does seem to be able to make a little bit of headway at a time. Now this Zergling run-by, though, can change the tide of a battle very rapidly. Just like that. Look at Serral individually target firing down a lot of stuff. And that is actually 19 SCVs going down. In the meantime, the push at the front is putting in quite a bit of work, too. 11 queens, by the way, is weird. He's lost 6 of them. Normally, queens are not used as a straight-up army unit. Usually, we see about 7 or 8 in this particular matchup. Serral is making them as a core unit for his army. Now, I think soon, though, they will be forced to heal up a bunch of Ultralisks. Chitinous plating, +3 melee, +3 armor. It's a very expensive set of upgrades. Finally, he does, Clem that is, manage to get the kill on that base. Zergling run by again. Widow Mines, though, have been set up nicely. 10 drones end up going down as well. Both players now at 69 workers. 5th command center, though, is already done, right? And the more command centers there are, the better this will be here for the Terran player. If he can, at the very least, add on some mules as well. So far, no orbital command yet. He needs to be careful, though. If he keeps on getting fungled like that, he will not be able to lift up his units. It's important to note that Microbial Shroud is not just a slow. It doesn't just deal a little bit of damage, but it also inhibits any sort of movement abilities. And popping your units inside of a medevac is considered to be a movement type of ability, and that one is not possible when your units are fungled. Chitinous plating, Ultralisk armor, now done. Queens trying to go in around the side. Liberators, of course, do a lot of damage. The Queens are not really that high of a DPS unit themselves, but ooh, in the meantime, a couple of Ultras over here are being caught. Fungal again on the ramp could be nice. Most Ultras, though, are extremely low in this section of the map, and that's another one going down. Clem could retarget, maybe get another one of those Infestors. Does not quite click fast enough. Ultras now do show up. Fungal Growth also does show up. Liberators are set a little bit too far forward. He does kill 10 drones in the meantime, too. Widow Mines, though, are being cleaned up, and that has been the backbone of Clem's attacks. As the Ultralisk numbers are growing, this is going to be trickier and trickier here for the Terran. But thus far, he has dealt a lot of damage here to the Zerg's economy. It's only a handful of drones at a time. But look at this, man. Look at these few Marines and Marauders. The Queen's body blocking, the Medevacs healing up. Spore Crawler not within range. That was like a handful of units getting so much value. Serral is actually walling them off right now. Burrowing the Spore Crawler. Apparently, there's just barely enough space for these Zerglings to squeeze through. But what an absolute mess. In the meantime, the Terran reinforcements have arrived, though, and you can see it reflected right now in the supply count. Clem is not really winning this with one big fight, but he may be able to achieve his goal of killing his opponent with 1,000 cuts. Now the Ultras, though, are here. And keep in mind, there are no Ghosts and not that many Liberators. Normally, Ghosts and Liberators are the main counter to these units. Marines and Marauders can sort of get the job done. This is, by the way, why I'm thinking Microbial Shroud would actually be, like in a game like this, Microbial Shroud would actually be the superior choice, I think, over Fungal Growth. Which is a crazy statement to make, but these Marines and Marauders would barely deal any damage. If Serral could get a couple Infestors out and then Microbial Shroud maybe end Fungal Growth, I mean, obviously that is speculation for now. We'll have to see how the new patch works out. And again, this is played on the old patch, but it could be enough to change the tide of a battle like the one that we are seeing right now. Nice little Marine drops, though, all over the place. Serral really wants to get a moment to breathe. But for the time being, he hasn't really been able to, well, stop the opponent for longer than like 10 seconds. Clem just keeps on microing, he keeps on dropping. He did, by the way, go double planetary, which I find quite interesting. Normally, the 4th base is a planetary fortress, but the 5th, not necessarily so. Normally, after the 4th, you go into a lot of orbital commands. Maybe because of the Zergling run-bys that have been wreaking havoc. Ooh, Fungal coming in around the site, but nice pickup there by Clem, just barely in the nick of time. He now sees, he expected that this base was already taken, but he now sees that that is not the case. And this may very well change the way that he is viewing this match. Because he believed that the Zerg economy was bigger than it was. Maybe he can go for the killing blow. It's looking to me like he wants to send all of his units through the center here. Fungal growth is decent. Most of the infestors are out of energy. Fungal maybe coming in around the site. Not enough energy on that one, though. You need 75 energy for a fungal. And so far, even though there's no ghosts, I mean, they're added into the mix right now, the Marines and Marauders seem to be doing a pretty darn good job. Serral's economy is not atrocious, but at this point, Clem is getting about 1,200 resources more for every minute that goes by. Now, maybe this Ultra Zergling counterattack can actually nullify some of it. Obviously, these units deal a lot of damage. Zerglings in particular, by the way. Their DPS is not to be underestimated. 14 SCVs end up going down. Maybe the Marines and the Marauders, though, stimming in this direction, can cut off the retreat path. He could burrow some of them, I suppose, but it's very expensive. In the meantime, another massive Zergling counterattack. Sure, Clem may be able to get a bunch of those Ultras in the top right-hand corner of the map, but he may be losing all of his economy in exchange. This may have just been exactly what Serral was looking for, because all of a sudden we are 47 SCVs down. There's no way, dude. Is Serral doing this again? I feel like for the first, I don't know, 15 and 45 seconds, 15 minutes, 45 seconds of this game, Clem was leading. But now all of a sudden we find ourselves in a position where Serral isn't comfortable. But he may have just managed to get the job done, although it's still going to be extremely close. Look, if Clem can get a EMP down with the ghosts onto the infestors, and if he can then also go ahead and maybe use, I don't know, a couple of snipes, or just Marines and Marauders kiting backwards against the Ultras, this is still very doable for him. But we have seen time and time again that Serral only needs a little bit of space in order to pull plays like this off. Planetary Fortress did finish, but ooh, I wonder if he could have killed it. I think he could have, to be honest. Serral decided to pull out of that Planetary Fortress. He'll probably come back in a moment, though, to finish the job if Clem does not repair, and he does. Planetary over here on the right, at the very least, has been quite nice. Okay. Dude, what an amazing game, number one. Seriously. We have an infestor sharking around for a while, by the way. Serral has been setting them up. Yeah, there's a few of them all over the map. He's been setting them up in key positions. This is not the type of game where Clem has a dozen orbital commands. He does not have a Raven available or anything like that. What he can do, though, is EMP. Nice EMP right over there from Clem, who's still leading the supply count by a very hefty amount. But he just doesn't really have the army that can reliably fight on creep. Another fungal growth, man. Serral is making these infestors look so freaking powerful. The pushes are starting to look a little bit desperate, though, here from Clem. Yes, he may have like a 40 supply advantage. Yes, his army is absolutely massive. But he is pushing as if he is the one on the ropes right now. And I'm not entirely sure if that's true. He's getting the Liberator ranged upgrade too, man. The fungals have just been lethal. Ay, ay, ay. Did Serral just reinvent Zerg versus Terran again? I feel like this is the type of style that is better on the new patch than it is on the old, but he's making it work on the old one. Ooh, dang. Jimmy did a little bit of a flyby over there. Okay. Zergling is burrowed right underneath here, so that command center will not be able to land. Most of the infestors, by the way, have been killed. Yeah, 17 queens, 10 infestors have died. Only 3 ghosts have gone down up until this point. Spore crawlers are set up in key locations to prevent the Liberators from dealing critical amounts of damage. This little position over here, though, is good for the Terran. Yeah, absolutely massacring the Zergling group. What about the push over here at the front, though? Because Serral may very well be smelling blood in the water. He's going in for a massive attack. It's just Zerglings and Ultras, though. At some point, the Marines, Marauders, and Ghosts can't really keep running. Fungal growth or not. Yeah, that was just a final play here for Serral. Man, Clem gets the win in game number 1, but he had to really fight for it. And just like that, we find ourselves on the map Persephone. These two are incredibly evenly matched. I really like, though, that Serral decided to go with a bit of an experimental playstyle there in the first game of the series. Skipping banelings altogether is quite an odd choice. Not usually the one that we see. Now, I do find it kind of funny, right? With the new patch going live last week, it's the first StarCraft 2 balance patch this year. So in like 10 months or so, we haven't really seen any balance adjustments. And it was also, coincidentally, the first time I took a week off in 2025. I have been making videos pretty much every single day. I've been trying my best to produce the very best content that I can. I prepare a bunch of videos in advance because me and Laurent decided to take a vacation. And of course, right in that 1 week is when Blizzard decides to publish the new patch. And yeah, I miss what is apparently one of the very best finals. I mean, luckily we have the replay, so we can't go back. But it is kind of ironic that just when I decide to leave, that is exactly when Blizzard decides to publish it all. Now, of course, I will be casting many games from the new patch as well. It's going to be an absolute blast. I've been hearing a lot of interesting things. There's a lot of drama, in particular with the new Microbial Shroud, but then also, of course, with the new Psionic Storm. They've made quite a few changes to it. I will highlight all of it when, of course, we do get to some of those new games. I will go over all of the changes during the cast then, so make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, so you get notified as soon as those videos do go live. For now, though, right here on Persephone in game number 2, we have a very normal start here. Clem again going for the low ground wall off. Factory on the back of this. I wonder how much being like the hometown hero really affects Clem in this particular series. Right, so like I said, this is a tournament played in Paris. Ooh, nice snipe over here. He gets a drone again. Just like the previous game. The series is played in Paris. And obviously Clem is French. Now, I have traveled many places to go to StarCraft 2 tournaments, and Serral is always a fan favorite. But I think playing against Clem in Paris may be one of the very few locations where Serral is not necessarily the player that everybody is cheering for. I mean, StarCraft fans in general are very polite, right? It's not generally like some of the, I don't know, some of the regular sports out there where people are. I've noticed, at least over the years, a lot of StarCraft fans just are fans of high-level gameplay. And of course, there will be some people that will be following one player in particular and watch every single one of their games. But usually, Serral is the man that everybody wants to see. But I wouldn't be surprised if in this particular matchup, it was Clem who was getting the majority of the cheers. The Eiffel Tower buff is what we call this, I believe. I think that's right. Triple Command Center opener. Barracks, Factory Starport. Second gas coming up right now. Hellions will be driving around again, so very similar start to what we saw in the previous game. Now, I am very interested to see whether or not Serral is going to go for the same build again. Right, so it's a new build order, or at the very least a more refined version of it, but there is a very real chance that he hasn't had as much practice with that strat, and that maybe something just went slightly wrong. You need to make sure that you obviously play a very clean early game. And it kind of felt to me like Serral never really got up to the worker count that he intended. I think that's a style you probably want to be playing off of about 80 to 85 drones or so. And Serral never really went over like 75. So maybe I'm mistaken. Zergling Scout over here at the front. There's a very real chance, though, that Serral never really got the ball rolling in the way that he wanted to. Evo chamber first. Okay. 4 minutes and 30 seconds, a 1 Evo chamber in the middle of the wall off. It's not even in, right over here would be the middle. Kind of a weird spot. I'm guessing it's going to be armor first, but apparently Serral is making all of the changes now. A lair does start up as well at 450. This has to be +1 carapace. It's really the only thing that makes sense in my mind, but maybe it's got something fishy happening here too. Hellions, though, have driven by the Overlord, and Serral sees it and uses this as an opportunity now to snipe a bunch of the SCVs and also bring back some of those units that were on his side of the map. The best defense, of course, is the offense. It is indeed, by the way, Carapace. Clem opting to go for a Liberator in game number 1. Decides to go for a Banshee this time around. The Liberator in game number 1 really didn't do that much. The first one, that is. The ones that came on the back of it were pretty good. We have 3 additional barracks right now added into the mix. Double engineering bay as well in the back of the natural expansion. And so are those Zerglings again. What about these Hellions, though? Obviously, the Zerglings are on the other side of the map. Clem doesn't want to risk it. He sees a couple of Lings over here. I think he could have jumped in. Always a difficult call to make, right? I think he could have jumped in and maybe did some damage, but he doesn't know how many Zerglings are hiding in that natural. Banshees are dealing a bit of damage already, though. We have that lair done, and therefore a Overseer can be morphed in. It's going to provide Serral the detection he needs, and he loses one of the queens in the process. But I think he prefers losing a queen here over a bunch of drones. Quick infestation pit again. Are we going to fire up triple infester again immediately? Maybe Serral's already practicing for the new patch. Who knows? This is looking remarkably similar, though, because I don't see a Baneling nest anywhere, and this will probably be a quick hive again. I think one thing, actually, if I have to be critical of Serral's previous game, his hive felt reasonably late. Obviously, when I say late, like, this is now at, like, 6:50. I think in the previous game, I didn't really pay attention to the clock, but it felt like his upgrades at the hive kicked in a little bit later than we would have normally expected them to, so maybe something went slightly off there. Maybe those ultras were supposed to be out, like, say, a half minute sooner or so, and this could be huge! Oh! Okay, Clem sleeping on the job with a meager 446 actions per minute. That is only like 10 buttons. Okay, maybe like 8 buttons a second. My God, Clem. Get a grip. Okay, no, it's fine. It's fine. It happens. Pro gamers are human too, but that is painful. If anything, you could park the Hellions in the mineral line and use them for some Zergling run-by defense, because now all of a sudden, momentum does slip in favor here of Serral. Queens going in around the side here, again used for zoning. We have 9 queens this time. No additional queens on the production tab, unlike the 20 or so that he ended up going for in the previous game. But again, he is skipping out Banelings. Fungal. Very interesting to see, right? Why would Clem not be facing off against Banelings in a series like this? Zergling run by again. Obviously, it allows a very quick hive. Another fungal over here too. And obviously, he's spending his gas here on infestors instead. Maybe Serral has determined that, like, Clem's micro is too good, and therefore, I mean, maybe it just doesn't make sense to go for Banelings anymore. Now that they have, in the new patch, plus 5 HP again, though, maybe they will suddenly be worthwhile once again. Huh. Did that wait, hold up. Did that medevac just get a couple of heals off? This is supposed to be... Maybe it was a heal on the Marines instead. This is supposed to be a line of sight blocker. Or not a line of sight, sorry, a path blocker over here for the medevac. Let me see. Sorry. This is just for my own little... 58 HP right now. Something got a heal. No, it must have been a Zerglings. Okay. 58 HP right there on the medevac. So this giant circle over here is supposed to block flying units from being able to enter the Xel'Naga Healing Shrine. I thought it was some sort of bug. Not the case, though. The animation is difficult to spot. There's the Ultra Cavern, though, already coming. Drilling Claws finishing up in the meantime on the other side of the map. The Zergling is burrowed in the wrong spot. Oh, it's not? Oh, it looked like it was in the wrong... What? Really? Okay. It looked like it was burrowed in the wrong spot, but Serral evidently knowing this game very well. Spire coming up as well. Now the Baneling Nest gets added. What a curious build order here from Serral. Not just in this game, but also in the previous one especially. What a... I'm guessing he wants to build up a bunch of Corruptors just to be able to deal with the Metavex a little bit better. We have 5 Dropper Lords added into the mix. Ghost Academy already coming up here for Clem, though. He was kind of caught off guard against those Ultras in the previous game, despite the fact that they felt quite late. He didn't really have a reliable answer. In this game, he's going to be able to get those Ghosts going a little bit quicker. Marines chasing down the Zerglings wherever they can. Zerglings, though, have been running around the map every which way. Should we do a little bit of first-person view? This is Clem's point of view whilst playing the match. You can see his selections in the bottom right-hand corner. That is where that 480 average actions per minute is kicking in. What always impresses me the most when we look at first-person pro gaming is how little scrolling there is actually going on. So obviously they are doing the edge-to-edge scrolling or the middle mouse button scrolling, but most of this is camera location hotkeys. Notice how the screen isn't really... That was a drag scroll right over there. But notice how the screen isn't really being panned around that much. Like, he's using control groups a lot to be able to move around the camera. But it's actually relatively calm despite having, like, near, you know, like 9 buttons a second, which is nuts. Switching over to some Serral first-person view. Serral doing a lot more drag scrolling, comparatively. See how he keeps on moving it around. Serral actually switched over to middle mouse scrolling some years ago, rather than panning the edge of the screen, which I found quite interesting. Here we go, though. Overlord drop inside of the main base. And this is quite painful. If anything, it is really drawing Clem's units all the way back into the main. Now, what Serral really gets out of this is time. So he's got 92 drones this time around. He's got the upgrades ticking along as well. Ultras are available right now, though, but of course the Ghosts are already here. The Widow Mines are creating a literal minefield. 10 SCVs is nothing really you have to be worried about here as Clem. 3 o'clock base, though, is going to be available here in just a moment. No creep moving from the bottom right north. So it's going to be difficult to really secure that base and reliably mine it. Clem should be able to snipe it without too much hassle. Clem, of course, also getting his own command center upgrades going, or all of his bio upgrades here. He's getting the range research for the Liberators. Apparently there was a Zergling that killed the... Oh, it's a fake Overlord drop. Ah, yeah. Bunch of Marines and Marauders run back in, but it's actually not really that much. Banelings now all of a sudden show up, though. It's the first time that Clem, I think, sees them. He does keep the command center alive. Zerglings, Ultras, and Banelings moving into the 4th base here, too. Clem has sealed off pretty much all of his expansions very nicely. But you know what? I thought this base was going to be hard to mine. If Clem decides to play it this passively, those golden minerals are going to be extremely nice. Hydralisk Den. Also added into the mix. So, what was the Spire for? Another change in the new patch. Spires are going to be cheaper and they produce faster. We do have the Zerglings and the Banelings moving in again. Infestors are full of energy, though, and they do decide to land some decent Fungals. Serral's kill, though, his goal was to get that planetary fortress. And upon achieving it, he decides to back off. Caduceus Reactor coming up here for Clem. That is the Medevac regen improvement. Really does make life a lot better. And he's now also done with his own +3/+3 infantry attacks. Fungal growths are going to finish off those Banshees. 3 o'clock base is going to get sniped as the Banshee distraction was successful. Again, though, Serral is pushing forward. And you can feel that in this game compared to the previous one, right? Momentum is just way better for the Zerg player. Clem not really able to get his feet under him as nicely. In the previous game, he was the one that was constantly aggressive. And now it's Serral who has managed to get that goal. Managed to achieve exactly what he set out to. And while it's expensive for the Zerg, he's got a very healthy economy to constantly replace all of those losses. Still though, Clem's economy here is significant. Clem has now decided to go for the good old strategy that Terran players are very fond of. At some point, after too many losses, do not bother to replace the lost workers. Just go for the biggest army you can muster. So Clem not really reproducing any workers here. Maybe he'll make some in a moment, but for now he really is just focusing on army production. And it means that his army size is gonna go through the roof. Because Serral has 85 workers dedicated to his mining, and obviously he's capped at 200, he just simply can't have nearly as much dedicated supply available for his army. So Clem's economy is still decent. He's starting to replace most of his mining as well with mules. You cannot count the man out. A few corruptors, by the way. Also really nice to have. The Zergling drop this time around is real. For some reason, the siege tank decided to shoot at the tech lab. Maybe just seeing if he had the amount of range that he needed. The Zergling run-bys though, left, right, and center. What about the counter-attack right over here? No infestors available in this section of the map. Not enough corruptors either. Zerglings though, in the main base, are destroying a bunch of stuff, but not too crazy. Fungal over here though, hatchery does fall. Okay. Clem gets some damage done, but he needs to be careful. Ooh, he flies into a bunch of the spore crawlers. Corruptors are showing up as well. Hatchery gets cancelled again, but I'm not sure if these Marines and Marauders are going to be able to go home. It's just a few Corruptors. But the Corruptors are chipping away. They do have the +1 attack. Yeah, and this is painful here for Clem. Losing a significant amount of his supply in units that normally can just fly back home. 3 o'clock base once more available again. No drones transferred on over to it just yet, though. Clem has decided to take the base over here in the top right once again, too. Getting a planetary fortress in that spot. Command centers are now finished here, too. So if he can add on a bunch more orbital commands, I mean, yeah, once you get up to like 6, 7, 8, your Terran economy does get really good. He's already got 4 orbitals. This one is going to turn into a planetary. I think he'll probably get these into orbital commands as well. That'll make the total very, very healthy. And he's going to be okay with just 52 SCVs worth of mining. As a matter of fact, he could lose some more. The creep spread, though, is allowing Serral to just jump so rapidly across the map. Again, the Zerg units show up in the top right-hand corner, mostly unscouted. The DPS is through the roof at this point, and while every single time he does lose a bunch of units, and while it's rarely cost-effective, he's got so much mining here. Yeah, this is really telling us most of the story of the game. Serral is just getting a healthy chunk of income more. And while the Terran's army is better in a straight-up fight, it's difficult to really get all of those units together in one big ball, because anytime he pushes, there's a Zergling run by again on the other side of the map. He needs to leave units behind. Now, this push over here, though, is not bad. Losing the Ghost would be painful. He does lose a few of them, maybe all of them. Still a few running away through that speed-up circle. Only some Corruptors available, slowly chipping away at the Medevacs, slowly chipping away at the Liberators, too. Okay. Clem sends in a counterattack here, but it's starting to feel a little bit desperate. Both players have now fully depleted their banks. And while I think it was okay for Clem to sit at 50 workers for a while, we're kind of getting to the point. Ooh, fungal growth over here, Ultras and Zerglings, another infestor coming in from the left. Yeah, we're getting to the point where it's starting to fizzle out. I think Serral is reading this game brilliantly. Now, Banelings blowing themselves up inside of a healing circle is a little odd. Corruptors swoop in, though, and we'll be able to get rid of some of those Medevacs. More and more SCVs are dying. Yeah, I think for a strategy like this, for the Terran to work out, you need to just get more damage done sooner. Obviously, it's not for a lack of trying, but I agree here with Clem. You can't really fight Serral with this much economy compared to yours. The score is all tied up. And we have made our way to the map Pylon. Now, this is actually my first StarCraft 2 series that I'm casting again after 2 weeks. I know. I honestly missed it. I know that sounds kind of cringe, but I really enjoy what I do, okay? I haven't really watched a lot of StarCraft either because, well, oftentimes when there's tournaments going on, I know that I can, most of the time, if I, ask the tournament organizers, or I also support a lot of tournaments out there financially, I can usually get the replays, and because of it, I haven't really been casting and looking at a whole lot of... And it's nice to get back. It's nice to get back. So right before I took a week off to go on vacation, so we decided to go and take a week off. We had already planned that in advance. We like booked a holiday and everything. The week before that, I managed to get sick. Now, I normally rarely get sick. I lost my voice and everything too, man. It was not good. But luckily, we're all back now. Little Zergling run by right over here. Marines trying their very best. SCVs will have to take up their own weapons as well. Hatchery over here has been blocked a bunch of times, but this has been a fake out from Serral for a while. I think he's gonna let it finish. Yeah. Oh, ooh, really? Good body block, yeah. I mean, I think he should have let it finish. Good body block right there by the Reaper, preventing the gas from being built. Serral already built the hatchery, of course, on the other side. I think at this point, Clem just assumes it's there, even though he hasn't technically seen it. Just by looking at all of the timings, he will have expected it. Okay. A few SCVs end up going down, and this is painful. Liberator, Hellion here, also falls. 3 SCVs is honestly significant for a Terran at this point. I know it doesn't sound like it's that much, but it's like 10% of his total economy at this point in time, and it adds up very rapidly. Now all of a sudden everything feels slightly more expensive. Additional Hellion production may be slowed down. Look, he can't really produce that secondary Hellion right now. There's a small delay. Ooh! Zerglings and drones decide to take their weapons to the Hellions themselves. And so far the workers in this particular game have been feisty. Little Zergling run by again on the other side of the map too. 7 workers for 4 Hellions in total. I don't hate it, but I'm also not a huge fan. All things considered though, as the dust is settling right now, I'm liking this position better for Serral. So when both players sort of lose their pressure out onto the map, and I believe there is still a Banshee, so at the very least Clem is not going to be without any sort of pressure, but obviously the larva mechanic here is incredibly powerful. While Clement does have 3 command centers, and he can obviously build 3 of those SCVs at a time, Serral has a whole lot of larva to pretty much immediately saturate the bases with. So as Clem is just now securing a 3rd, Serral is already fully saturating his. This Banshee has its work cut out for her, but I don't think she's going to be able to achieve too much. Personal cloaking for the Banshee is going to finish up as well in just a moment. Another group of Hellions. Now this is kind of odd here from Clem. You wouldn't really expect it as a Zerg, after the first batch of Hellions to go down, that a secondary batch would come up. And these also, don't achieve too much. Now all of a sudden we do go Banelings. I feel like if you want to rush up Ultras, this is the perfect game to do so. Because there is pretty much no pressure on the horizon here from Clem. So Serral throwing down the Baneling Nest makes me wonder if maybe he wants to go for something a little bit more aggressive himself. Or maybe he really just wants to be super safe, but if there ever was a game to skip out on the Banelings, I feel like this would be the one. Obviously, though, we have perfect information right on the game, and not quite as simple here for Serral. But I also don't think this is the most complex game for him ever to read, so we'll have to see what he does with the Baneling Nest. Lair is already here, no Infestation Pit, +1 melee, Baneling speed does begin, +2 armor as well. So economically, Serral is slightly ahead. Upgrades-wise, he's got a full armor upgrade, which just makes all of those early game exchanges a little bit better for him. That low HP Banshee from earlier has found a friend. No Overseer here yet. There is one available. Oh, there it comes. Banshees, though, taking a long way all the way around the site, trying to make sure that they are not spotted by that Overseer. Factory at the front as well, over at the third. Secondary factory, of course, that is. And yep, we've got barracks 3, 4, and 5 finishing up. Okay. A slow Overlord drop has arrived in the main base. Banshee's still going to town. But it really feels like the players are just trying to throw stuff at each other. Whatever they can get their hands on. Slow Overlords, 2 Banshees, 2 Medevacs and a few units. A kitchen sink. Anything that's even remotely throwable. Ultimately, though, it's both players building up their economies. They're testing the waters. Trying their very best to just deal as much damage as they can with what little they do have. But ultimately, it is a reasonably passive follow-up here from the both of them. Yeah, so Serral did get the Baneling speed going, but he's not really using it for anything. I thought maybe he wanted to go for like a roll-by as soon as Baneling speed finished up. But nope, he just got Baneling speed. Still went for an infestation pit, still went into a hive. Still is building up a few of those infestors too right now. All of it is a little bit slower though. Nice micro here by Clem. Paying attention to everything. Ooh, gets an infestor for his troubles too. Queens accidentally kill one of their own creep tumors. A misclick right there from Serral. What about that roll-by? I expected this push a little bit earlier. Yeah, nothing too much though. Only 6 SCVs have gone down in total so far in this game. And Clem suddenly has picked up the pace a little bit. Those Banelings now, right? With plus 5 additional HP on the new patch. That is mostly done, I believe, for the Zerg versus Protoss matchup. Because against Protoss, with Psystorm, we used to not really see a lot of Baneling play anymore. And plus 5 HP is what they used to have once upon a time. They removed it. Didn't really compensate much. But it's, of course, one of those changes that is also going to drastically... Ooh, fungal. It is also certainly going to affect this matchup. Ooh, so much friendly fire done as well, though, there by Clem. Widow Mines are a double-edged sword. Sometimes they deal damage to your units more so than the units you wanted them to kill. They are technically microable, but most of the time you just sort of let them do their own thing. APM limitation. There's always more to manage in this game, right? And that's what makes StarCraft 2 so good. Ultimately, this is a game of priorities where you have to decide what do you want to do right now. And you have to decide that literally the entire game long. But getting the prioritization right is so incredibly difficult. Individual Widowmine micro, not really top of the line priority right now. Zergling run by again, but there are a bunch of units ready for defense as well. Reinforcements coming up from both sides. Good defense here by Clem. And look at the supply count now all of a sudden, right? Clem is going into a 5th command center. And even though the game has been feeling pretty smooth for Serral at the first, I want to say like the first 6 or 7 minutes or so, slowly but surely, Clem is starting to chip away at those Zerg units. And he gets so much value with that phenomenal micro of his that now he's got a very legitimate amount of supply and an advantage. And yeah, he's smelling blood in the water right now. A good old 3-base 8-Rex would have been phenomenal here. Clem not really a big fan of that style, even though most Terran players love it. A couple of the Hydralists are joining in as well. Usually that's a sign that he wants to go into Lurkers. No Lurker Den anywhere, though. And at this point, Serral is having a tough time just staying alive. Medevacs are swooping away again, but already there's a new attack imminent towards that top left-hand corner. Serral is having a difficult time even taking a 5th. Even though Clem has got the same amount of bases here and then a couple of additional command centers on top of it too. Clem has got the better army. He doesn't quite have the better upgrades. But his economy more than makes up for it. And soon everybody will be at 3-3 anyways. It is something that Clem will need to start up. Okay, he needs to be careful. He's throwing away a lot of expensive units here. Another starport added into the mix. Another command center added as well. Pylon can become quite a cramped map. Difficult to expand on. There's a lot of choke points, for example, where we have seen massive problems for Terran players over the last few months. Where in the late game, they just can't really maneuver around very much. Now, we are a long ways off from a proper late game like that. But it may very well be what is in the back of Serral's mind right now. Try to drag this game out as much as he can. Hydraling Bane and Fester. Ooh, big fungal over here. Doesn't have a whole lot of energy anymore, but as long as there's no ghosts out, and they're coming right now, but as long as there's no ghosts available yet, those infestors can do whatever they like. Hydras actually are not to be underestimated. Nicely done. Now, I don't think Serral has seen any ghost yet. No. The first ones are just about to pop out of the barracks. EMP can change the tide of a game like this very quickly. We have the Hydraulic Lunge ability as well. The Nanomuscular Swell. That's what the research is called. I know, it's disgusting. Although over here, apparently, in this overlay, they only call it Lunge. That's the name of the ability, not the ability to research. Anyway. What do you think is the grossest upgrade thing in StarCraft 2? Like, the dirtiest name? I think Nanomuscular Swell is up there. So again, that's the Hydraulic Lunge ability. Circling run by. In the meantime, on the other side of the map, joining in with a bunch of Hydralisks. Counterattack here as well from the Terran player. Ooh, huge SCV losses right now, though. And Clem needs to be careful, man. Sometimes I feel like he gets a little bit too comfortable. Serral is somebody who will never go down without a fight. And we may be just witnessing that again. Clem was looking so good up until about a minute ago. And while he's dealing some damage, he's taking so much damage at home. Now all of a sudden, Serral is knocking at the front door. Orbital Command in a natural goes down. This is kind of a crazy attack here from the Zerg player, if I'm being honest. But reinforcing Zerg units, I think, should be able to deal with the units that are available right now on the side of the Zerg. So I think he's going to be able to get rid of those Marines and the Marauders. And suddenly, knock, knock, who's there? It's the entirety of the Zerg swarm. He may have cornered himself a little bit, though. I think it's fine. Yeah, I think Serral has the numbers. Oh, okay, sure. That's how we can use the lunge ability. Clem trying desperately to hold on to his main base. If Serral can stay here, though, and comfortably stabilize in this spot, he can snipe all of the units as soon as they pop out of the production structures. And that obviously is a massive problem. Reinforcing Zerglings show up as well. I think Serral may have just pulled a rabbit out of a hat. That's crazy. Yeah, at this point, there's no pressure anymore either. There's a bunch of Widow Mines, but that's about it. Natural expansion is gone, so that means that the main base is wide open. And I think Clem, yeah, he's processing a loss right now. I think Clem is actually screwed. GG. Wow. And just like that, we find ourselves on Golden Wall. Now, I'm always a little bit biased. I think this is my favorite map that we've had in StarCraft 2 over like the last... how long has it been? 5, 6, 7... Normally, whenever I'm thinking about a time period, I need to like double it. So maybe the last 10 years. StarCraft 2 time is a beautiful thing. Sometimes I think to myself, oh yeah, how long has it been since Björn was the world champion of StarCraft? Maybe like 4 or 5... 2016. Which, believe it or not, was not 4 years ago. I know. Sounds like a glitch in the Matrix. Anyway, triple command center opener right here for Clem. Serral going for the forward expansion first, and then the backwards expansion. It's one of my favorite parts about this particular map. The way in which you expand dictates the pacing of the match. And you can go for a lot of aggressive builds as well because of it. Now, Serral hasn't really gone for any aggressive builds. I mean, obviously that previous game ended with a lot of aggression, but no early game pressure. 3 minutes and 15-ish seconds in, though, he started up a Roach Warren just now. Okay. Now, it's an easy scout for Clem, but he has not gone up to the high ground here to check. And this doesn't have to indicate aggression, but Serral did skip out on the Zergling speed as well as any other gas expenditure. He doesn't have that much gas as it is anyways, but he could certainly rush out like 5 roaches or so and deal some damage. Clem opting to go for a much quicker second barracks this time around, so delaying the starport in favor of a second barracks. Both players switching up their strategies just a bit. Usually roaches are very much so a stepping stone, but okay. Serral walling himself in fully in the natural expansion. It's a little curious, we don't normally see it this way. Okay. Apparently we were just holding the door for the roaches. And then when the roaches appeared, we decided to just remove the door. Smart. If you have roaches in your house, just remove the door. Just get rid of it. Any door you have, get rid of it. It's not necessary. Let the roaches freely flow. Third barracks already coming up. Engineering bay as well in the back. Oh. You know what? He is getting a drone in position just in case. Obviously, if you have Zergling speed, it's way easier to get rid of any sort of Hellion run-bys or any sort of aggression that the Terran may try to throw at you. Now, Clem has decided to just sort of let this Zerg player do whatever he likes. One of the really difficult parts about playing against a roach-based opener is that it's difficult to find an angle to be attacking from. It kind of feels like Zerg has got all of their bases covered quite nicely. So the wall off here at the front obviously makes it difficult. You can't really be too aggressive over here because there's really only so many lines of attack. But also roaches are usually played quite passively. So that's why I quite like the idea here for the orbital command on the gold side of the minerals. Creep tumor does go down. Both players though are now expanding in each other's direction. Alternatively, Serral could take the base over here, which means that he would not be able to mine the gas geyser that Clem does have access to. This side over here does make the entire map a little bit different. Difficult for the Zerg to really get that job done, especially before roach speed is available. Now, despite the fact that we had a doorman, apparently the doorman decided to sleep on the job. Still, 4 drones, like 2 Hellions or so. What was it? 2 Hellions and a Reaper. Not that big of a deal. Additional barracks, though, coming up right now, too. Roach speed is just seconds away from finishing now. Infestors, again, prioritized before Banelings. Man, these guys really have been stealing the show so far in this series. Heavy uses of Infestors, which very commonly is a unit that we just see skipped. But Serral is putting them on a pedestal so far in this particular match. I'm not sure if he's doing it specifically against Clem. Maybe he's just secretly already preparing for the new patch. I don't know. Maybe he's figured out something. Or maybe he just respects Clem too much. Maybe he knows that Clem's micro is just too freaking good to really just die to a bunch of Banelings. Fungal, fungal, fungal. Ooh. Goodbye. Zergling speed also now seconds away from finishing, but Clem already has the 1-1 upgrades done. Serral playing this weird opener, right, with the quick Roach Warren and the single Evo chamber and all the rest of it. Clem should be able to pull out a little bit of an advantage, especially when 2-2 is done. +2/+2 is going to be a really nice combination of upgrades. If you can line up like a maxed out attack with 2-2, it is something that can seriously hurt the Zerg. It's like, yeah, Serral is safe up until this point. He hasn't really taken a lot of damage. The eco is really good as well. But it does slow down everything a little bit. It just always feels a bit finicky. So far, he's navigating all of this really nicely. Oh, Viper's coming up as well. Interesting. So it's an 8-minute hive that just finished up. Viper, Infestor, Roach, Ling, Bane, Ravager, Queen. Okay. It's a delicate unit composition. And one that in theory is amazing. But if you're a human, is one of those things that can go horribly wrong really rapidly. Lucky for us, Serral isn't, I think. Fungal right over here. Siege tanks, though, are putting in a lot of damage as well. We haven't seen a heavy focus on siege tanks yet. Corrosive balls, though, are going to get rid of at least half of the HP. 2/3, 3/4 or so of the HP over there. Medevac drop in the natural expansion has been cleaned up. Blinding Clouds are going to be important here to try and get rid of this, but no. He does engage before the Vipers are here, and that may have been a mistake. Maybe Serral is human after all. Blinding Cloud does get planted down, but of course it also affects friendlies, and that includes the Roaches and the Ravagers. Fungal Growths do finally connect with some of this, and we have some decent engagements here across the board. But Serral butchering that fight because he decided to go for the most complex unit composition imaginable at minute 9. He butchered the fight, and because of it, he decides to just straight up tap out. Next up, we find ourselves on the map Sandworm. Now, that was certainly a bit of an early GG right there from Serral. The thing, of course, is that this is a very momentum-driven playstyle, right? The matchup in general usually seems to favor the guy that can get the game to snowball. And Clem just made a massive pile of snow, and it was starting to roll down the hill. I can't really blame Serral too much, especially when you're playing, well, not just a grand finals, but you're also playing a tournament that day, right? This is not the first series, I'm sure, that both of these guys played in that particular tournament day, so you gotta save your wrists, you gotta save your stamina, gotta save your brain power as well, man. Plus, when you're fighting from behind for a long time and you kind of already have mentally checked out, sometimes it's just better, I think, to tap out a little earlier rather than later. I think it makes sense. Either way, that was a perfect example of a strategy that works in theory. I have a lot of strategies in my head that work in theory, but then the problem becomes execution. Like, technically, Roach, Ling, Ravager, Bane, Infestor, Viper, Queen can deal with everything, but then you have to deal with the limitations of the flesh. I know. The mind is willing, but the flesh is weak. And it's a real problem. Maybe if we could all grow like a third arm or something, those type of unit compositions would be more viable. But it's not so easily done. Clem going for the much more blunt approach right over there, right? He just decided to sledgehammer his opponent with Marine Siege Tank Medevac. Not a bad idea at all. Well, maybe Serral can try and, well, give it another shot. Roach Warren once more coming up here nice and early. Sandworm, of course, a bit of a different map. I'm guessing, by the way, that Clem will be going Siege Tanks again upon seeing the Roach Warren, which he hasn't yet. He does get a creep tumor over there, which is nice. Evo Chamber at the front. We have the doorman once more setting up. You know when you go to like a really fancy hotel and there's a doorman? This is the guy. You can't see, but he's wearing a tuxedo and everything. It's like a reverse doorman, though, because as soon as the Hellions show up, he decides to shut the door in their face. Oh, here we go. Poor Hellions. They just want to stay the night. They just wanted to stay the night in the Zerg base. Yeah, maybe it's more like a bouncer than a doorman. Nobody's allowed in, unless you're a Zerg. Whereas in most clubs in real life, I think it's unlikely you're allowed in if you're a Zerg. I'm never allowed into any clubs. No, never. Played too much Zerg. Alright, Benchy going in around the side. Hellions in the meantime moving in on the left. But of course, roaches are so freaking good when it comes to defending these sort of points. As long as they are in position, and that is the key. Technically, roaches defend everything. Realistically, though, you can very easily be caught off guard. Clem testing the waters, going around the side, going around the left. Benching a natural expansion. Forcing multitasking and constantly trying to capitalize on mistakes from the opponent. Now, this is a little bit of an odd one. Clem, for some reason, not setting the rally point. How many do we make? Ah, there we go. Before we notice. Benchies are going to be spotted here by the Overseer. Yeah, Spore Crawler, of course, also something that needs to be taken into consideration. Clem decided to go for the unorthodox approach there. Normally against Banshees, or with Banshees rather, against Roaches, you want to go around the site. Clem decided to pull all of the units there together. Not really achieving much, though, so far in this particular match. We'll have to see if Serral decides to go for that super complex unit composition again. Yeah, the upgrades are going to be disjointed. I'm assuming we'll go +1 melee. But it's also weird to go +1 melee. Yeah, there you go. When you're playing roaches, like this whole strategy, it makes sense in theory, but realistically, it's so difficult to pull off. Infestors again coming up. We'll probably see a hive next. There it is. Zergling speed as well. Spore Crawler being set up just to try and deal with some of this aggression. This is very much so Serral saying, yo, I'm going to try and win the game by minute 15, maybe minute 20 or so. You can do whatever you like. Gotta be careful of potential counterattacks, of course. But this is not really a Zerg unit composition that's going to be able to keep you honest very nicely. The difficult part, though, for Clem right now is that there are variations of this, where Zerg just goes for like a full-on assault with roach speed and like +1. So, while we have all the information here that can tell us, okay, that's not what Serral was going for, it is not entirely true in Clem's mind here yet. He could obviously take a gamble and just sort of assume. He's playing against Serral, so really what are the odds of him going for a full, you know, roach all-in at this stage in the game? But it's never quite zero. Clem, by the way, opting to go for a good old 8 Rex here. Huh. So this is a triple command center, effectively an all-in. He's hiding it well so far. Clem did fire up the +2/+2, but he does not have a 4th command center. Obviously, you can move your old main base once the, well, minerals run out. We're still several minutes away from that being an issue. But across the board, this is something that needs to deal damage soon. If Serral can get Ultras out, I mean, you can't push anymore as the Terran. He did go for a 4th command center, was forced to cancel it. Serral obviously has now seen the timing of it, though. He is making some big investments. I'm a little bit concerned here for Serral, if I'm being honest. He's going +2/+2, Adrenal Glands, Ultra Cavern, and everything else as well. It's technically viable. Fighting off creep might be too much. Big fungal growth, though. He decides to back off. Serral is basically trying to get the cake and then eat it, too. If you can get away with it, that would be huge, but it is a little bit risky. Chitinous plating coming up too. If he finishes up all of the upgrades though and Ultras are out, I don't think Clem can really do much. So that is the idea here for Serral. Zergling run by again. This could be huge actually for Serral here. Just any delay on the attack here, any kill on the 4th command center is massive. Okay, well Clem already was... yeah, I want to say 80% all-in. Now he's like 98% all-in. Yeah, there's a 4th command center on the back of this. But he needs to get something done fast. And honestly, this army needs to be respected, man. This Terran army is huge. +2/+2 is finishing up right now, which I think is what Serral, or Clem rather, was waiting for. Decent fungal growths over here. Very good fungal growths now. But is it enough? Ultras are coming. Marines are being bumped out so rapidly. Zergling run by over here, though. Killing 2 siege tanks. Okay, I think that seals the deal for Serral. Yeah, no, that's good enough. 5 Ultras are just about to hit the battlefield, and they will have +2 armor together with chitinous plating. Clem has 0 answer against Ultras. The big chompers are here. Time to do some chomping. Yeah, Clem is dancing right now, but... it is not easily done. He never restarted the 4th Command Center, by the way, did he? No. No. Not Clem's best game, if I'm being honest with you. And this is kind of the reason why we don't see him going for 8 Rexes all too often. Other Terran players are big fans of 8 Rexes, and I think this is the type of game that sort of proves to Clem, yeah, like this is just not what I should be doing. GG. Serral just shuts it down and makes it look easy. And that takes us to Maganatha. Match point right here for Serral, but again, since Serral is coming from the lower bracket in this particular tournament, if he ends up winning the first best of 7, we play 1 additional best of 3 for all the marbles. Whereas if Clem ends up winning this particular best of 7, he wins the tournament. It's one of the more confusing tournament formats. I hope it makes sense. So basically the way you gotta think of it, as we do by the way of a double Rex opener. The easiest way I think to explain it is that this is a double elimination tournament where both players have 2 lives. Serral already used up his first life. Clem has not lost a series yet, so he hasn't lost his first life. And therefore, if we, well, have him as the winner of the first best of 7, it counts. If he loses the first best of 7, well, then he's lost his first life. And we play 1 more best of 3 as a deciders match. It gets a little bit confusing. I'll be honest, I think it's cool as a player. I think it's one of those things where it's really nice as a competitor. I don't really love it as a commentator or a tournament organizer or anything along those lines, because it just kind of makes everything confusing. Because I know for a fact, already, if you scroll down into the comment section of this video, in the future, because I'm casting this in the present, but for you it's in the past. Anyways, time's confusing. I can already guarantee you there's going to be somebody confused about it. Even though yeah. And I don't think it's a good idea when it isn't entirely obvious. Just make him play 1 best of 7. You made it to the finals. Because the argument, obviously, is that Serral, in order to, like, get back up to the finals, after using up his first life, he has to play an additional series compared to Clem. So, I think it's fine. Alright, anyways, the Triple Reaper opener. Getting a little bit of damage done. Nothing really to write home about. This is a very popular build order, especially on Maganatha. The main problem is that you become quite predictable, but we've already seen that Clem has been very predictable so far in this particular series, not really changing up his strategy all too much. It is a little bit of an oddball, though, to follow this up right now with Hellions. Most of the time you follow it up with Stimpack and then, well, quick medevac production too. Not the case this time around. Okay. Obviously, though, for Serral right now, he does not have to be worried about any sort of mech. I mean, technically speaking, you could follow this up as well with Terran mech. But you would have to take into consideration the cost of the first barracks, and it just slows everything down a lot, right? If you're not planning on using either of your 2 barracks, it gets kind of pricey. You always need 1 barracks, because in order to make a factory, it has the requirement of a barracks, but making 2 of them and then playing mech, not quite the norm. Alright, Serral is checking right now, though, with a huge number of Zerglings. The Marines are tucked away in a corner, but there's certainly not enough of them to really win this fight. Quite a few SCVs are going to pay the price as well. Hellion run by in the meantime on the other side of the map, getting very little done. Serral, anticipating the movement, decides to run the units away. 10 SCVs at this phase in the game is... I almost want to say lethal. 10 SCVs is so much. Clem needs to get something done soon in order to justify this. And maybe he can get the job done right over here. He doesn't want to drive too far forward. Liberator in the meantime also deflected here by Serral. Nice target firing right here onto the low HP Hellions. One of the queens does go down. Liberator around the side. Queen does die as well in the natural expansion, but queen from the main kills the lib. 7 drones, though, is actually quite respectable. Yeah. But already you can see that Serral has skyrocketed ahead in the worker count. It's an uphill battle right now here for Clem, but still one that I think is playable. Problem is, now you are on the back foot. And again, these two players, very momentum-driven in general. Clem usually does better when he can snowball the game in his advantage. I feel like historically, he's never been as strong from this position. I think he's very good at being the aggressor and then deciding to basically just pile on more and more layers of aggression. But when the first waves don't really work out, and you take some damage as well at home, suddenly you find yourself in this spot. And recovering from here is difficult. Then again, though, Clem has been working on his game a lot. Certainly the best Terran versus Zerg player in the world. Problem is, he's going up against Serral, who's going for a very quick burrow. Yeah, infestors again. Man, I am so... I'm kind of surprised that Serral keeps playing this style. So skipping out on banelings, straight infestors, very quick burrow, very fast hive. But no banelings. Fungal growth, though, can change everything, right? The creep spread on the left side of the map, nothing really to write home about yet. Clem doing a good job keeping this creep at the very least somewhat contained. Push over here on the left as well. Queens, though, together with Lynx should be okay. Not a lot of energy remaining, but the fungal growth could change the tide of this very rapidly. Oh, gets an infestor for his troubles. That's not too bad. Problem is, I think all of the Marines are going to die. Oh, okay. Keeps the medevac alive with literally 1 health. Zergling run by in the meantime on the other side of the map also dealt with some clever Sim City here, forcing the Zerglings to go in through a very shallow choke point. Obviously, that's the spot where those Hellions deal maximum amounts of damage. Serral actually stacking up some money here. He has not enough larvae in order to currently spend his income, although he must have just had another batch of larvae popping out of these injects. Hatchery coming up over here. Macro hatchery now also done. Adrenal glands coming up together with an Ultra Cavern. Clem really not in a position to be fighting Ultras yet, but look at the man. He's making his army look so much scarier than it actually is. Partially, though, because of Serral counterattacking again. Reinforcing Marines do show up. Serral's hoping to get most of those SCVs killed from this mineral line, but so far the evacuation is good. And while it's a trade-out... Yeah, a bit of a trade-out between the units here. No SCVs killed. Clem did get a hatchery for his troubles on the other side of the map. Fungal growth over here, though, can be an absolute disaster, but the Widow Mine getting a lot of damage down. 14 kills on that single mine before it ended up dying. Clem doing Clem things here. This is one of those games that can very quickly slip out of your fingers. But while I like the position here for Serral a lot just a few minutes ago, I think Clem may just be starting up a bit of a comeback. If he can get another hatchery killed, that would be massive. I think that's a little overly ambitious, though. Still, these are well-upgraded Marines. Adrenal Glands is finishing now. That is a big damage boost, of course, for the Lynx. But he's still using the terrain to his advantage. Fungal growth is good, but since there's no banelings in the mix, hard for the Zerg player to engage, and that's another hatchery down. I didn't think he was going to be able to achieve it. Good splitty right there by Serral. Pushes well on the left side in the meantime. So many queens available. Maybe in the first game of this series, Clem was a little bit surprised by this unit composition and this playstyle from the Zerg. But in this game, Serral is playing an identical strategy again. He seems to have adjusted very, very nicely. Yeah, it's weird to not see banelings here. Oh, fungals are good, though. But the problem is there's just not enough backbone. The idea is that the Ultras are going to be the backbone and that the Queens can transfuse the Ultras. But now the Queens are all dying. Oh my god, Clem has done it. GG. Alrighty, and that means that this best of 7 series comes down to the map Tokamak. Clem, smelling blood in the water. Honestly, playing a really good follow-up in that previous game. I have seen Serral run away with victories in that type of scenario so many times, but Clem just microed his butt off and really got so much value. I think so. I don't want to flex or anything, but I got a sandwich. Ja, wel. There's your Dutch lesson for the day. She asked, ben je wel of niet een video aan het opnemen? Which means, are you recording a video or not? Professional commentator alert. You know what? We'll leave it in. Starboard right now on the Starboard right now on the back it is. Nah, we don't edit. No, editing it. No, we don't edit. Starboard right now coming up here for Clem. Command center coming up. I got 2 sandwiches, guys. I got one with cheese and one with ham. I don't want to flex or anything, but it smells really good. But let me finish this best of 7 first. All right. Triple command center opener here. 1-1-1 for Clem. I spent so much time talking to myself that Laurent's like, yo, is he just yapping, or is he recording? Is he streaming? Like, what is he doing? Either way, I've got a sandwich, so here you go. Absolute legend. Cloaking field coming up here again as well for Clem. So very normal start here for the Terran player. I'm curious to see if Serral is going to go into that infestation pit again really rapidly. I need to get one of those recording lights on my door, you know? Like, you know how sometimes in like radio studios or whatever, they have like a recording light that that lights up outside of your... Yeah, maybe I need to get one of those. The problem is I will definitely forget activating it and deactivating it. And also I have found over the years that nobody cares. As a matter of fact, I think people really like live blooper reels. I used to think it's important to be a professional when you make content. But then I realized, no. No, not really. All right. Benchy going in around the side. Actually getting some good value in. Hellions going in to natural. Again, Clemdo mostly just using this as a threat. Maybe trying to pull those queens out of position to allow the Benchy a bit more damage. Okay. He does drive them into the third base mineral line for just a moment. Not the end of the world, though, for Serral. 7 drones is good damage. Second Benchy, by the way, is here as well. 2 Benchies allow you to one-shot a drone. Problem is, of course, it's all very disjointed now. Not activating or deactivating the cloaking there does make everything a bit messy. 4th hatchery does start up, but honestly, this is one of those spots where maybe Serral should have let the drone die. Yeah, that hatchery can certainly fall, but maybe the Hellions are going to get cornered. Not quite. Both players really respecting the opponent's micro. One of the queens taking a lot of damage. Okay, nice push here by Clem. He may not be able to drive those Hellions home, but he has already gotten so much value. Benchy's join in as well. It's expensive, though, here for the Terran player. Like, yeah, you cancel a hatchery and all that, and yeah, you kill a queen and all that. Now, if you can get a double kill on a hatch, that could change everything. I'm surprised these additional queens did not show up earlier. Double cancel would really hurt the Zerg. Oh, one Benchy does die. Okay. So, as the dust settles, if we look at the lost resources, keep in mind that from here, Terran can't really put on pressure. Terran is reliant on that stim pack and the medevacs and all that finishing up to be able to be aggressive. And right now, Serral gets to do whatever he pleases. So, even though he did lose a good few hundred of resources more than the opponent, I think it's fine. It's one of those spots where I feel like if you're like a Terran player on the ladder, it's one of those positions where you're like, but I canceled your hatchery and I killed your queens and you're still ahead. It's like, yeah, buddy, because you lost all of your stuff. you lost all of your units in the process. So yeah, you slowed them down, but only a little bit. If you can get all of the Hellions out and the Benchies, then suddenly we're talking a little differently. All right, Queens now together with Hydras and Zerglings, but no Banelings. Man, does Serral just hate Banelings? I know he made some of them, but just entirely ignoring it. Hive coming up. I think Ultras are on the horizon yet again. Okay. Fourth command center is coming. But it's a fourth command center again after 8 barracks. And this is now even an 8 Rex without additional add-ons. So these 3 additional barracks over here do not have add-ons on them, which usually indicates maximum amounts of urgency. Nice fungal growth right here, though. Serral slowing down this advancement a lot. And I think this is good enough delay here from the Zerg player. Coming in from the side as well with the slowest units in the game. The Queen's waddling off creep. But Serral pushes this army away, and that's big. Suddenly, we have an 8 Rex with a delayed 4th. We have 2-2 started up, but also not at the perfect time. Interestingly enough, this game is apparently when we played Lurkers. We haven't seen Lurkers yet a single time in this particular series. It'll be a while, though, for those units to finish up. And it is going to give Clem a chance to build up his army yet again. Serral showing us that he's got a wide arsenal of strategies available to him. It is cool because it's all pivoting a little bit differently, right? Like, he's treating this as a series rather than an individual game. He's already shown a strat similar to this one with the Hydras at the time. Then he went for the, well, push straight into the opponent's main base, where he lunged all the way around the, you know, he nano-muscular swelled up out of his mind, and he decided to push straight across. Now we're going for a different transition. Okay. I like the idea of going Lurkers, but it does feel like everything's been slowed down a bit. Clem, again, has been given so much time, and without Banelings, this is just not a Zerg army that really seems to pack much of a punch. Lurkers are here now, though. Fungal growth is really nice. Oh. Hydra's trying to use like a mimicked version of a nanomuscular swell, a fake lunge. They just, you know, walked forward. But you know what? I don't really mind this position too much right now for Clem. I feel like I am going back and forth now. In that previous game, we had Serral with a phenomenal start. Clem managed to grab it back again. In this game, Serral had a phenomenal start, but I wonder if Clem is bringing it back again. Lurkers are really powerful, don't get me wrong. But it's taking such a long time before Serral can really get those units out and before he can capitalize on it. Now we're talking 4 base versus 4 base. Command center count is slowly starting to grow. My main concern, though, is when those Lurkers are fully upgraded. It's a big power spike. So they have 2 upgrades. Seismic Spines is already done. The Lurker burrow improvement is going to be here in just a moment. If Serral can add on like another wave or so of Lurkers, suddenly these Lurkers can move forward and burrow right next to a command center. And without Ghosts, without Liberators, it's really difficult for Terran to actually try and break through a position like that. So I think that's what Serral is probably aiming for right now, yeah. Clem knows that he cannot let the Lurkers burrow over here. So he's already taking up position here on the high ground. Bunch of Lurkers, though, are pushing this away. Ghost numbers are slowly growing. We have 2 at the moment. Banshee ends up going down. Normally, you push in the direction, actually, of the planetary. Serral, yeah, I think he's thinking the same thing right now. Normally, like, the problem is orbital commands can fly. Yeah, Serral may have actually found himself on the wrong side of the map. Planetary is not so lucky. There's that lunge coming in again. Catching up with the units. Lurkers are using this as an opportunity right now as well to move forward. Serral trying to break the high ground here. Leapfrogging a bunch of the units forward, but the Ghosts are now here, and the snipes are starting to hurt. Nicely done here by Clem, honestly, but I don't know if he's got enough stuff. Everybody has a plan against Lurkers until they get punched in the mouth. And now the third is indeed going to have to evacuate. The problem, of course, here for Clem is that this is not likely going to be the only attack. I think Serral wants to continue. I don't think Serral is going to unburrow and continue on his way home. I think he's going to burrow over here next. And if he can get Lurkers in position there, it's going to be so tough. He is going Banelings now, by the way, on the back of this. So Banelings, Baneling speed, all the rest of it. surprised he's even making the transition, to be honest. I think he could just double down on more lurkers. Big fungal growth right now. Lurkers underneath. And that is, I think, sealing the deal here. I mean, maybe Clem can sort of stabilize. He can get some cost-effective trades. The problem is that soon the Zerg player is knocking at his, well, main base here again. Still though, Clem is going to continue dancing. I would love to see a few Hydras going in around the side here to snipe some of the SCVs. That would really seal an advantage here for Serral, because if you look at the worker count, life's not that bad. Okay, he's doing the same thing. Not with Hydras, but with Lurkers instead. Probably the better choice. There's already a Lurker setup over there as well. Fungal growth again coming up. Liberator's getting into position, but not in the right spot. Lunge is going to allow those Hydras to catch up and move away with ease. The Lurkers over here are just putting on some additional pressure. The Ghosts are getting so much value, though, and Clem is honestly doing a really good job trying to make the best of a very bad situation. Now he can't leave his natural. He can leave, I guess, with Metavex. That's nice and all, but at this point, he's got more Metavex than attacking units. Planetary Fortress goes down. Orbital Command right over here is going to be denied as well by a Lurker. Calm and collected here by Serral. Yep, no rush, GG. And that means that Serral wins the first best of 7. But again, because he's coming from the lower bracket, we get a additional best of 3 on the back of this. And that means it all comes down to this. One best of 3 series for all the marbles. Now we're back on Golden Wall again. Of course, we already saw this map in the first best of 7. Not vetoed by either player, but apparently we're once more going back to it. A complex map to play. One of the reasons why I like it so much, but I can imagine if you're playing here, it is going to be quite a painful match, because you've already been focusing for hours on end. Now you gotta try and bring it back again. Clem going for the... Okay, sure. Build the third on location. I think he's looking at what Serral's doing here. He's like, yo, you went for the natural over here, and then the back third base right over here. I think you're gonna go Roach Warren again. You're gonna skip Zergling speed? Yeah. I don't care. I will just go ahead, and this is a nice gamble here from Clem. I will just go ahead and build my command center in the riskiest position possible. Obviously, what do you gain? Well, most of the time, right, you would have to fly your command center from here to over there. So how much do you gain? Maybe 10, 15 seconds or so. It doesn't sound like a big deal, but any attack right now that Clem can go for is going to hit harder. There's really nothing that Serral can do to prevent this base from finishing. Now, Serral already cutting a corner himself as well, though. He decided to go blind triple hatch, gasless. It's something you can really only do reliably on a map like this. But Clem obviously analyzed that from the previous time they played against each other. Yep. And we're back to it once again. Both players trying to out-greed each other. Obviously, they're in Paris, right? They're already thinking, where are we going to be spending our money? Are we going to buy, I don't know, $20,000 worth of croissants? That's a lot. Pretty sure you wouldn't be able to do so without, like, paying in advance and letting the bakery know. That's a lot of food. They also have a lot of luxury brands, I suppose, but in Paris, but I don't really think either of these two players really cares. Maybe, you know. Maybe if you open up like Serral's and Clem's wardrobe, it's just high-end designer branding. But when they're at a tournament, they have to wear their team jersey. You never know. It's very possible. Maybe Serral does his regular shopping at Hermes. We don't know. I doubt it. But maybe we're already mentally checked out to that point. Okay, Banshee goes in. I think sniping the creep tumor is the way. There we go. Oh, drones. Okay. He thought they were headed for the main base. I wonder if maybe one or two of those drones could have gone, but it's... Yeah, it feels like a faraway drive-through right here as a Terran player. You don't really want to over-risk your Hellions here. Normally, right, what you do with Hellions is you cycle between, like, the natural and then the third base. is what Clem is trying to do right now, but on this map, the path is just so freaking long. And since this is up on a high ground, you can't really push in. So these Hellion openers are nice, but they're mostly nice for the Terran player to stay safe against counterattacks, rather than for the Terran player to deal damage. It really only should be allowed to deal damage if Serral is sleeping on the job. Banshees going in. Yep, so far the defense is tight. Oh. Careful. Ah, where are we going? 3 drones to one-shot a drone. Or, sorry, 3 Hellions to one-shot a drone. Yeah, you got 1 drone for 4 Hellions. That's not good. We have a single Ravager here as well, just harassing. Banshees, though, should be hunting it down soon. Clem going for the grand split, trying to see where that, that Ravager ran off to. He finds it here eventually, but a couple of roaches are joining in the fray as well. Naida's network. Okay. Serral's thinking, yo, you have just given me too much of an advantage by giving away your Hellions. So I will try to finally commit to a big attack before maxing out. It's the first time in the series, actually, that Serral decides to go for an attack before maxing, it seems. He's been very stock standard in that regard. But I really like the idea here. When the opponent makes a mistake, that's when you capitalize. Drone's going the wrong way. They should probably be mining on this side over here instead. Marine's still wandering around, though. Where is the Nidus Worm going to go? It's going to go into the back of the main base. Clem already preparing a supply depot, though, so at least he's going to have vision. There is that spot over here where the refinery doesn't give you all the intel. What? Clem just scanned his own main base. Why did we just scan our own main base? Anyways, he does have a supply depot right over here. And he is going to see the Nidus Worm. Roaches in the meantime attacking the 4th base as well. Nidus network, though, is up in the main. Roaches are starting to pop out, but there was enough damage here. A single siege tank, okay, did aid in pulling off that defense. Roaches now also wandering to the natural expansion. Lots of damage is being done right here by the Zerg player. But all of his units are being cleaned up. Yeah, reinforcing troops do show eventually. Nice control right here by the Terran, trying to dive in between every single one of those corrosive biles. Marines from the natural expansion come running up towards the high ground now as well. Okay, Serral has decided that it's not quite good enough. May as well just not risk it. Give up on the worms. Regroup and try again. Okay, that was still 19 SCVs going down, though. Those Marines putting in an awful lot of damage. Next up, I guess the idea is to harass the gold base from the back. One of the weird things about this map is that this is actually a full wall off. It doesn't really visually look like one, but it is. Queens are going to be probably dropping some creep tumors over here. Gold base now up and running as well, though, for Serral. You hope to deal more damage there, I think, right? Like, he dealt a good bit of damage, but it's not a game-winning position for him just yet. And it's easy to think, as a Zerg right now, that you are in a game-winning spot. He's kind of doubling down here. Siege tank does get biled, but those Marines are not messing around. I really like that Clem decided to go for the +2 attack. Those Marines are already dealing an awful lot of damage. More damage is more better. Roaches are actually kind of caught off guard right now. It's a weird spot. Yeah, they decide to just use their feet to run back home, but the 4th base goes down because of it. Clem is finding himself fighting multiple fights at the same time, but I think both of them are okay. Hatchery is going to try and at least rebuild, but the drone dies before we get there, although we have another one taking its place. An absolute disaster of a fight right here for Serral, despite the fact that it feels like the desperation play of a lifetime right here from Clem. Really using the terrain here of the Golden Wall to his advantage. Man, this map is glorious. I really like this map. It's so good. He wouldn't be able to pull this off on any other map. These YOLO drops, though, are still allowing him a chance to get back in. And so far, the supply count is not really looking that disastrous for him. Bunch of roaches over here. Siege tank numbers are also looking healthy. 4 of them in total. Corrosive biles are dodged yet again. Serral has no infestors. Really no follow-up plan here, other than more of the same. Hatchery is way misplaced as well. Fourth command center in the meantime is done. Serral scouts this immediately. Nicely done right there by the Zerg. But my question is mostly, is he going to be able to stop this Terran push at the front? You cannot play 3-base Zerg versus 4-base Terran. Especially not when you're stuck on Roach Ravager. But he does still have the 2-2, right? And 2-2 is going to finish up soon. The Zerg army is still absolutely massive. Maybe one final attack, one final push to just try to see if you can bring enough of those units home. Now, some Roaches have decided to go in. Marines are evacuated from the natural expansion. Double Nidus Worm over here. Roaches are harassed from the back. We have another squad of Roaches as well moving straight through the middle. It's a messy fight, an extremely chaotic game. Siege tanks caught on siege. Clem was trying to cycle them towards the natural expansion. Immediately he gets pounced on top of, but in the meantime, in the main base, we see the Roaches and the Ravagers also dying. Some of them did manage to slither through the worm back towards the third. It's a messy setup. It's a sloppy setup here, but I think it's still okay for Serral. A lot of losses for both players, though. More so for Serral than for Clem. Clem trying to go and chase some of these units down. He just doesn't really have the numbers here, but he does have the speed advantage. Main problem, though, is that Serral lost his fourth, right? So he decided to remake one right over here. He's also going for an expansion over here in the top left, which I think may also be slightly mispositioned. Clem scans, and he now sees that this base was not remade. Does he assume the opponent is on a 3-base all-in? Or is he going to check down south? It's either this or that. It turns out in this instance it's both. Difficult call, though, for Clem to make. We have a few infestors added into the mix as well. Fungal Growth obviously can put in a lot of work. Looks like the Banshee has now been retired to fighting Nidus Worms inside of the main base. A couple of changelings are left behind as well here, just to try and create a little bit more of an opportunity there. A couple of Roaches trying to join in with the rest of the army. Full stim pack activated for Clem. Normally you wouldn't want to be stimming all your units, but this is such a chaotic game all of a sudden. +2/+2 though is done as well for the Marines and the Marauders now, which really makes life better. Hive coming up. We do have some infestors available, like I said, so Fungal Growth can certainly hurt. Roaches over here are being killed by SCVs, but also by the Marines. Big Fungal in the meantime on the main army. Siege tanks, though, are starting to get close, and this hatchery is going to disappear in just about a second's time. Clem really doing a great job, not taking any of those big biles to the face. Nice targeting right there on another infestor. Clem has that base in the top right, which is mostly safe. Corrosive Biles over here are hurting. That siege tank will live. Planetary Fortress over here is pretty much unbeatable for now. It's so far out of the beaten path. Concave here, an advantage for Serral. Clem, though, is pushing up towards the high ground. Income-wise, it is do or die right now for the Terran, but he does have an army advantage, and it's still just Roach Ravager. So this army here for the Terran is huge. Now finally some Corrosive Biles do connect onto the Metavex. Siege tanks, though, helping out so much. 11 confirmed kills on that bad boy. Serral decides to call GG. Clem brings it back yet again. Clem is now one map away from winning this Grand Finals. This may be the longest Grand Finals I've ever casted, even though none of the individual games have been that long. I think the longest game has maybe been like 18 minutes or so. It's very possible to get a Zerg versus Terran that's like 45 minutes long, especially between these two. There is certainly an upper limit to how long a series should be. What do you think it is? Oh, nice bait right there by Serral. There is that one infamous match between Mana and Firecake from back in Heart of the Swarm, where one game was like 3 hours and 45 minutes. This was Swarm Host going up against Colossi. Just a ladder match. It was a really dumb game. Swarm Hosts were obviously a very different unit back then. This does feel like an extremely long match, though. So far, it is also because both players are incredibly evenly matched, right? So far, this has been a long game. But it also shows you a different type of skill. It's not easy to stay focused, both physically as well as mentally, for this long. Whilst you are playing on a stage as well, in front of a crowd, you don't really get to chill for very much. I mean, obviously you're allowed like a couple of breaks in between, but usually no longer than 5 minutes. Nice little Zergling run by here, at least attempting to get some damage done. But this is also a commitment from Serral. Okay, getting a Hellion is good. Getting a Reaper is also not bad. Still hunting down with some reinforcing units, whatever he can. Okay. So, where do we take this from here, Serral? Ball, in my mind, at least, is very much so in your court. Do you go for anything aggressive? Do you try and throw a curveball? It's not really Serral's style. It's not really what he likes to do. But I don't think it would be a bad idea. Single Evo chamber again. No, that's going to be +1 armor. This, when you see Serral build a single Evo chamber at like 440, 430 or so, it means ultras. I know we're a long ways off, and this is a working theory of mine, but this is 100% ultras. Little Zergling run by though. It means that all of this little bit of aggression that he's doing right now is really just pressure. None of it is going to be committed. Now that was extremely good. 6 SCVs for 20 drones, or 20 Zerglings rather, is not bad. Look at the supply count right now already, right? Look at the worker count. The problem is, Serral may sometimes be a little bit too indecisive with that sort of punishment. Like, the theory here is strong, right? The theory is, okay, I am ahead, so what's the best way for me to play? It is to get more ahead. And if we were robots, it is 100% statistically the best thing to do. Because if you go for a push right now and you try to capitalize on your advantage, there's a chance you mess it up and then your opponent can, well, get back into it again. This is very likely, though, going to be Serral sitting back for the next 10 minutes. Maybe some little Zergling run-bys and all the rest of it, but he's going to try and get up towards that hive. He's going to give his opponent so much breathing room. And sometimes I think it's better to be maybe a bit more decisive with these kind of pushes. Because we've already seen this time and time again, not just from Serral, but also from Clem in this series, where one of the two players gets a big advantage early on, and then just kind of tries to macro their way out of there. But then it turns out you can still make mistakes, especially when the series is 2+ hours long. It's very easy to let it all slip. Whereas I feel like if you go for a timing attack based around, well, damage you've done a few minutes prior to it, the odds of you making a misplay up until that point are way lower. Either way, obviously it's easy for me to look at these games and be like, oh, this is what you should have done. This is what you should be doing. But already, look at the supply count. Clem is caught up. Easy peasy. He's doing some nice bits of harassment here with those Banshees. Now, are we going to add on a second factory and then probably a 4th command center? This SCV is getting ready for a 4th command center. I was wondering maybe we will go into a 8-Rex push again. I don't believe Clem has won any of the games, though, where he decided to go for an 8-Rex. Especially when you've already had a bit of a slippery early game. It's probably not ideal. Nice push over here, though, by Serral. Runs in with the Lynx. Decides to back off again upon seeing that there are indeed a lot of units. Hellions also show up. Okay, misrallied here on the Lynx. So they are likely going to go down. Okay, Infestor's coming up. Second factory indeed, 4th command center like I mentioned. And I'm assuming after this we're going to go for barracks 6, 7, and 8. +2/+2 though should be a top priority. Very important not forget about those. That's the type of stuff, by the way, that can easily slip your mind. I notice when I'm tired and I'm playing StarCraft, that's like the first thing that goes. I immediately forget about upgrades. Okay, Clem, way better than me. Not so stupid. I mean, I've played StarCraft 2 where I'm playing Zerg, and I'm kind of tired, and I forget building a spawning pool. I don't even know how I manage it. It's not easy, but forgetting a spawning pool is not the best thing you can do. Kind of important. Also, I feel like every Zerg player has made this mistake at least once, where you accidentally, for some reason, make an Evo chamber instead of a spawning pool. Like, they look visually the same when they're building, and you just don't realize it. All right, push over here. There are infestors available again. Serral has decided to go for that Ultra Cavern. No Banelings, though. Clem has had a little bit of practice against this strategy now, and his army is looking big. Siege tank in a dangerous position, getting a good bit of value. Queen's trying her very best. Now the Zerglings swoop in, though, from multiple angles. Say goodbye to this Terran attack. Yep, better pick up. Pick up the pieces, get out. In the meantime, though, there is a secondary push all the way in the top left. And that one is a little bit more successful, with that main army here distracting the Zerg down south. Chitinous plating coming up for the Ultras. Serral's economy is at 69 drones, which normally I would say is pretty nice, but I think in this instance it's not ideal. Zerglings trying to get the wraparound, push in the main base. Tries to go around the side again, mostly just as a distraction. New hatchery coming up on the low ground, but Clem is doing all the right things. He's got a planetary fortress now over at the gold base. He's getting the Marines and the Marauders to help out as well, so those debris are blocking the base, so you can't take it as like a cheesy early expansion. I've always liked that about Sandworm. This map never has been an official tournament map. I mean, if you're a tournament organizer, you can choose to have it in your event, obviously, but I've always liked Sandworm. I think it's a cool concept. Ooh, beautiful splitties here by Serral on those Widow Mines. Ultras are coming. And we've seen how much Clem can struggle against those units earlier on. Banshee kills an Infestor on its way out. Chitinous plating, though, is now nearly finished, right? And that's a big power spike. We are not yet at Ghosts. He does kill a hatchery, but we're also not yet at Liberators. Clem has tried both. In this particular series, he's tried countering the Ultras with Libs. He also did it with Ultras. Maybe he's decided that we don't need either. Maybe we just go pure Marine Marauder Medevac Mine. Any unit that starts with the letter M. Ooh, well, you know what? On Sandworm, we have these path blockers right over here. Marines and Marauders can fit in between, but the Ultra is too thick. The Ultra can't squeeze its body in between. Now, we do have a good fungal growth over here, though. Zerglings decide to come in as well. They're going to make, well, backing up here a little bit harder. An Ultralisk, though, does still fall, and there's enough Medevacs available, too, to keep on attacking this army. Zergling run by in the meantime over at the front too, but I think the siege tank on the high ground is having a good time. 20 confirmed kills. And likewise, the reinforcing units also do show up. Clem has fired up the +3 infantry attacks. Not quite going for the armor upgrade, which is an oversight. Certainly should be starting it up as well. He's got the eco, he's got the command centers. No reason to push this too hard right now. There it goes. Oh my god, it's like he hurt me. This series was played like a week ago, but he hurt me from the past. Incredible. Time is meaningless. All right, Liberator. Add it into the mix now. I think Liberators are indeed a good choice, but I don't really disagree with Clem over here, going just for the good old Marine Marauder Medevac for now. Mostly just using the terrain to his advantage. Ultras, probably not, in hindsight, the best choice on this map. Fungal growth, though, coming in from the left. Not enough energy. 75 energy required for a fungal. That Infestor only had 60-something. He's again dancing on the perimeter of the creep. Clem does that so well. He doesn't know how many Infestors there are. He's going to see some of them coming in right now. Fungal growth, fungal growth! Ultras are going to be able to close the distance. Another fungal growth as well coming in from the left. That is a very large chunk of the Terran army disappearing, but in the meantime, there's another push happening up north. Liberator count is slowly growing. There's no counter here for the Zerg, other than Queens, which I guess that Liberator decided to YOLO itself into. Overlord over here is going to get the Knight. A new planetary fortress or an orbital command can be added into the main or into the bases right over here in just a moment. Medevac goes down, and that means that the Marauders will also fall. YOLO drop into the main base. Clem decides to boost all of his units, loses one of the medifex though. That was still mostly full. Clem has decided to take a page out of Hero's book. He just killed the Ultra Cavern and the spawning pool. Okay. I don't know if Serral has realized that he lost the Ultra Cavern too. He restarts the spawning pool, but not the cavern. You know what? You're so used to seeing the structure come up in the early game that when you lose it later on, it can sometimes feel like it takes forever to build. Circling around by in the meantime, though, on the left side, that's nice and all. But Serral is unable to really produce any units at this point in time. Still, he's putting in some work. Ghost production has also begun, so we're gonna have both Liberators as well as Ghosts available. And that usually means that the life of the Ultra starts, well, ticking here. There is a timing window where Ultras are phenomenal, but that window is rapidly closing, and honestly, it may already be closed. Ultras over here are getting sniped. Planetary Fortress stays alive due to mass repair. Push over here up north, okay? No Ghosts available here yet. Liberator just mostly putting in some work. Hatchery is low. Bunch of infestors in the middle of the map, of course. One fungal growth can still change the tide of everything so quickly. But Clem is playing a phenomenal game here. Oh, he scans. He sees the infestor. That's huge. That was Serral's idea. Again, he's using the terrain to his advantage. The Ultras are derping all over the place. And just like that, it's Clem who wins the Maestros of the Game tournament. But my God, did he have to fight for it. That was one of the closest, most epic series of StarCraft that I have seen in a while. So he loses the first best of 7, but because he came from the upper bracket, they play that reset match, right? And, well, we get this one best of 3 to decide it all. And Serral actually loses the tournament because of it. Wow. That's crazy. I think in hindsight, I don't think we will ever see Serral. If Sandworm is still going to be a map in any other tournament, I don't think we'll ever see Serral play Ultralisks on Sandworm again.